Today we're going to talk about preparing your greens for a tribute piece, something that might go to a funeral home or a memorial service. And a lot of times you'll have clients come in asking for a casket spray, which is obviously the biggest piece that goes on the casket to kind of serve as a tribute. A lot of times favorite flowers or colors that they want to remember their loved one with. So we're going to talk about some of the key basics to keep in mind if you're putting together one of these pieces. This is your standard form. It has a little reservoir so you can keep water in there. I've got 2 soaked foams, and one of the most important things that you're going to do is to make sure it's very secure so it doesn't tip over, because it does become very heavy. And then also we're going to talk about how to green it and make sure it's all set to go to put your flowers in. So the first thing I'm going to do, I've got my block and a half block on top to give it some height. And I'm going to secure this foam with pipe cleaners. See, it's not going anywhere. I use these holes on either side to draw the pipe cleaners up through on the sides, and you can also see at the front. And usually just one crisscross will serve pretty well. This is kind of my standard smaller casket spray. When you get into the larger ones, or even a full casket that is closed, you would do a double, and there'd even be a longer base here that you could work with. So now that we have our wet foam secured, it is ready to be greened, and this is the most important process going through creating this casket spray. When starting our greening process, we're going to start with some of the longer pieces of greenery so that when it sits on top of a casket or a platform, it's going to be draping downward. So we're going to take some of our longer pieces. I like to work with a palm. This is teepee. It has a little bit thinner leaves and really fills in the gaps as you get some of that length out in front. So we're going to cut some of our pieces here. And a lot of this involves stripping some of this down. So we're going to angle this so that you can see it's going to be draping downward. Going to take some leather leaf. They come in big bundles like that. It usually takes a full bundle, even a bundle and a half, depending on how big your piece is going to be. Just like before, you're going to angle this down so that it drapes downward. And you're going to want to stagger this so that they're not all laying in the same direction on top of one another. So now you can see all of your foam is covered. You've got a nice pattern, cascading pattern. Everything is draping down at the bottom, so it's going to lay real nice. And you want it to be greened fully, that you could actually present this without flowers. That means fill in any holes. If you see any holes or any other texture you might want to add to it, and some of the the bare spots in here. Use different types of greens to do that. Of course, you're also going to be filling in some flowers, but make sure that when you're designing with the greens, you're only putting in that stem one time, if at all possible, because you really, once you start pulling stems out of that foam, it really starts to crumble and fall apart. It doesn't hold in very well. So you want to keep that in mind when you're designing. Same with the flowers. When you put those in, you want to try and only put them in once, because they take up a big void. Some of the bigger flowers do. And you start pulling them out, putting them in different positions, then you're really starting to disintegrate some of that foam and make it less stable. So that's really the process of greening. Again, making sure that you're covering all of the foam and that it's presentable without flowers involved when you're working on one of those platform pieces.